Representative Bob Quattrocchi, 228 Old Plainfield Pike, 50-year resident of Situate, of our beautiful town of Situate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission members. I would also like to thank the public that showed up tonight to express their concerns about this project. Now, my biggest concern is that the voices of the community will be overshadowed by more powerful outside voices who don't have our community's best interest in mind. We've already witnessed our local zoning board, which listened to the will of the people in rejecting this project, be neutered and nullified, as proven by the continuation of this planning process. I've been vocal in calling projects like this a scam and a scourge on communities like ours. When our taxes go through the roof to support something we don't agree with, and a dual tax system is created, enriching a very select few, what else could we possibly call it? Now, after the people of East Providence subsidized the property taxes of a housing complex called Kent Farms for decades, in 2012, the owners flipped it to another investment company whose claim on their website it is to serve high net worth investors. These projects transfer the tax dollars of hardworking, mostly middle-class Rhode Islanders to high net worth investors. Not since the taking of Situate's land 100 years ago by the state and city of Providence to create the reservoir has this town had to deal with such a movement that will literally change the town of Situate completely. We hear the word change a lot from politicians. That doesn't mean that it necessarily is a good thing. We are giving away our God-given constitutional rights in this country, and nowhere is it accelerating faster than Rhode Island. We had to sit through 2 nights, 6 hours of people who have nothing to do with our town tell us what's good for us, while we who pay the bills wait months to be heard. I want to talk briefly about the driving force behind projects like this. In 2014, our state representatives gave away the people's power of self-governance to a group of unelected bureaucrats who created this nearly 200-page document called Roadmap Rhode Island, which was voted by them as the state's guide plan. Of course, because it was so controversial and unpopular, drawing crowds of opposition, the name has been changed to Rhode Island Rising. And these original documents have been removed from the state's website. This master plan, which gives the state control over every aspect of our lives, our water and resources, our energy, our farmlands and housing and development, was sold to us as an economic development plan by a group of unelected people who, not one of which had a degree in economics, and is nothing more than a social engineering scheme. The funding for the creation of this scheme came from the federal government, the federal government's U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. So basically, Uncle Sam is going to tell us how to run our town. This is happening in towns all over the country who allow it to happen. Our town has been targeted as a threat to sustainability with its single-family homes and large lot sizes. So our property rights are in serious jeopardy. The goal is to build as many of these so-called affordable housing projects, which are referred to as growth centers in the roadmap plan. These are being pushed in every community with the goal of putting tremendous unaffordable tax burden on single-family properties to force us into the same high-density type of living, essentially driving the last nails in the coffin of the middle class. What is gained by making housing affordable for one group of people while making it unaffordable to those who pay the bills? As many of you know, Situate used to be a very affordable place to live. My father, with his single mechanic's income, and my mom, a homemaker, raised 7 children. What made Situate and other communities like ours so unaffordable? The growth and interference of government, guided by greedy special interests. If there is to be a pushback against overreaching government, let it be Situate, let it be now. The only thing that should be paramount in Situate is the will and desire of these people. Now I have the whole 200-page document, the roadmap document, and I also have the land use 2025 document, another 200 pages. And I'm going to read them all for you right now. If I could, I'd just like to highlight a few things. This is all coming out of the state documents. With this, right in the preface, it starts off by saying, with this plan, the State Planning Council asserts a more prominent role in orchestrating statewide land use planning and promoting public investments in areas. So they have big plans for towns like ours, communities like ours. The plan directs the state and communities to concentrate growth inside the urban services boundaries and within local designated centers in rural areas. It's about concentrating growth, and Hope has been targeted as one of these areas. In the section it says, where are we going? Rhode Island's use of land in the past few decades has set a new trajectory that cannot be sustained, one that is more characterized by the diffuse, low-density land use pattern described by planners as sprawl. That is the term that they refer to us as. We are sprawl. Why do Rhode Island public planning efforts, this is all from their document now, why do Rhode Island public planning efforts seem to be missing their often stated goal of concentrating development and controlling sprawl, in spite of an extensive state, municipal, comprehensive planning system and centralized state environmental permitting? Much of Rhode Island's development over the past 30 years has not been followed. The official state planning visions as set forth in the previous state land use plans. So simply the reason that public planning efforts seem to miss their goals is because communities like ours, we reject being controlled and like experimental lab rats. It goes on to say that the vision was bold as it proposed new planned communities. However, the implementation was idealistic and threatening as it promoted major property tax reform and state management of zoning. So their goals here are in black and white. The state wants total control of property tax and zoning. Actually, Article 13, Section 1 of our state's constitution says that it is the intention of this article to grant and confirm to the people of every city and town in this state the right of self-government. While not ignoring the significant planning foundation that the 1975 and the 1989 plans established, they failed adequately to adequately deal with the fiscal aspects of land use, notably property rights and taxation. They are things that they felt needed to be dealt with. So how do you deal adequately with property rights and taxation? You undermine property rights and you increase taxation. Under the heading, how the trend accommodates future needs. It says that cities could continue to lose economic vitality and perhaps population as new employment options and housing continue to migrate to formerly rural locales. So basically, because cities are failing, communities like ours should suffer because of this. This analysis doesn't take into account the causes of mismanagement of cities, poor education, unaddressed crime, and sanctuary city status, frankly. The emphasis on low-density residential development would limit housing choice and make development of affordable units in adequate numbers problematic. And also, it mentions a reliance on automobiles, so that's also a threat. Single-family dwellings are considered a threat to the 2025 land use plan, as well as automobiles. It also says the power and responsibility to shape the state's future landscape, the places where our children and grandchildren will live, lies with us. Unfortunately, the us is not us. In section, part 2, where do we want to be in 20 years? It says that having contained sprawl, we are sprawl. Having contained us, the state's urban form will be a pattern of concentrations. People in their endeavors will continue to be largely concentrated in traditional locations. Dense centers of varying scales, both traditional and new, will be the focal points of housing, commerce, and social interaction. We have to listen very carefully to these words. People in their endeavors will be controlled. Gauging public perceptions of land use objectives. It states that much of the land use 2025 flows from the opinions of the general public. So I'd simply like to ask, how many in this room have ever even heard of land use 2025? Show of hands. Congratulations, we have a winner. Okay, so they're stating that this flows from the opinions of the general public. In 2003, interviews were conducted with several dozen Rhode Island planning practitioners who were then brought together for a day-long brainstorming session that produced the organizing framework for this plan. I don't know if any of you were involved in this day-long brainstorming session. Beginning in 2000, the Governor's Growth Planning Council launched an initiative to promote growth centers by recommending the adoption of state investment strategy that would act as an incentive. This investment strategy would prioritize state discretionary investments to include state-managed federal funds. And it goes on to say that growth centers are defined as having a core of commercial and community service residential development and natural and built landmarks and boundaries that provide a sense of place, making them dynamic and efficient centers of development. So our state is using our tax dollars to pick winners and losers. In the section it's listed as the rural approach, that's us. It states that in the more rural areas of the state, we should avoid sprawl, once again, and advocate clustering development. What's listed here is a list of implementation. So going down the list, A, reform Rhode Island property tax system in a manner that supports the goals and objectives of this plan. Essentially, create state property tax laws to force compliance. Encourage, B, encourage municipalities to maintain clear and current land use plans and coordinated regulations to attain land use goals on a statewide, regional, and community level. So essentially, B, lean on municipalities to comply. C, develop and maintain excellent land use information and technology. Track every move we make with technology. D, ensure the state and municipal planning officials are well trained and properly supported. Indoctrinate those with decision-making power. E, revise current statutes to ensure that Rhode Island's planning enabling legislation will be the contemporary and responsive foundation for state and municipal land management decisions. Weaponize laws to force municipal compliance. F, achieve greater integration of state and municipal planning systems and support regional efforts. Basically achieving state takeover of local decision making. Again, it mentions control of sprawl, promote low overall densities where public services are unavailable and not planned, which is where many of us live, including yourselves, I'm sure. So how would they do that? If that's where people want to be, how would they do that? And the answer is through punishment of high taxes, regulations, and selling of development rights to the state, and eventually, I believe, eminent domain. Promote the designation of growth centers at appropriate locations and appropriate design to achieve a concentrated development pattern in accordance with the vision of the Land Use 2020. Implement a state investment strategy that recognizes growth centers as a priority. So apparently the targeting of our community is considered a priority. Support property tax reform efforts that will reduce the negative influence of the current system on land use decision making. So what are the negative influences which property tax reform will reduce? Is it the somewhat affordable taxes that we have, that we enjoy now? This plan recognizes that while the policy and guidance of previous efforts were sound, the efficacy of those plans was challenged by the lack of incentives to implement the policies. So basically all the incentives are is major tax credits for developers. And basically we're looking at providing a trifecta of taxation, I call it. The developer receives tax dollars for the project. Low-income units are subsidized by taxpayers, and property taxes will skyrocket. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Now they have a map in here. It's, they refer to it as the future land use map. And relating to this map, there's a couple interesting sentences here. It says that it is important to note that this map is a geographic portrayal of state land use policy. It is not statewide zoning. It's not a statewide zoning map. Zoning matters and individual land use decisions are to remain the prerogative of local governments. Some underdeveloped areas have few resources, constraints, and have or are likely to be provided with urban-level services, including public water, transit, and in some locations sewer service by 2025. The priority is development with intensities and residential densities that mirror existing urban developed lands. I'd like to repeat that last sentence again. Priority is development with intensities and residential densities that mirror existing urban developed lands. That's what's planned for Holden. They have a definition of centers. Centers are compact developed areas containing a defined central core. Centers are intended to offer a high-density housing stock with compact development. You don't mind if I skip a couple pages, do you? Okay, so in their summary, the area within the United States, the urban service boundary are identified as optimum areas for accommodating the bulk of the state's development needs through 2025. So is this really what we want for Hope? Do we want Hope to accommodate the bulk of the state's development needs? Part 3, what issues do we need to be concerned about getting So it says that existing conditions present profound challenges to that goal. And property owners have the right to develop those parcels for uses permitted with existing zoning. That is actually considered an existing challenge. The property owners have the right to develop their own parcels and do what they want with their land. Permitted by existing zoning, by the way. Private wells and individual septic systems are considered a challenge. It says that societal costs, there are societal costs as well. Both segregation and isolation of Rhode Islanders are aggravated by sprawl. On this page it mentions sprawl 11 times. Because it often leads to communities of uniform land uses, mostly single-family houses of the same type and for the same income bracket. Sprawl. Recent studies. Oh, yeah, this is an interesting comment here. They say that recent studies have linked sprawl with health problems related to inactivity. I'm glad they're looking out for our health. Some Rhode Island communities lack practical plans for alternatives to sprawl development. And I find it interesting that among one of the constraints, they mention segregation, homogeneity. I had to look that word up. Apparently we're all the same. It means that we're all exactly the same type of people. And isolation of land uses and population. Essentially, they are implying that our community is racist as a whole. And if we cure our racism, we can help prevent sprawl. You may be wondering, how can intentionally settling any group of people be an alternative in combating sprawl? It goes back to a dual tax system, where those who pay little to nothing will drive up the taxes on the rest, making their properties unaffordable or undesirable to maintain. Two more pages. They actually admit to something on the demand side of affordable housing. There's a demand for housing. And they admit that rising immigrant populations in the core cities is one of the contributing factors to that. What they don't acknowledge is that the amount of illegal immigration. So their policies that they're creating at the state level are, we have to pay for. And I'll finish with this. It says that economic development in Rhode Island is the story of the new economy replacing the old economy. Now, we know the old economy was textiles and manufacturing. The new economy still seems very blurry, relying on corporate welfare while forsaking small business. They ask a question: is Rhode Island's future one of community and opportunities for collaboration that feed the new economy, or scatter in isolation? Now I take that if we like how we live and the isolation of where we live, we are being demonized as a hindrance to the new economy. I'm going to finish with that, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I don't envy your decisions you have to make, and thank you very much.